Welcome back to History Unveiled. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jordan. Today we're diving into a fascinating and complex topic, the origins of Zionism and how it intertwines with both Christian and Jewish narratives. So Alex, let's start with a big question. How did Zionism evolve from a religious concept into a political movement?
Great question, Jordan. Zionism initially emerged as an evangelical Christian concept in the 19th century. It was rooted in a belief that the return of Jews to Palestine was part of God's divine plan. But what's really interesting is how this idea was politicized once Christians realized that many Jews were also yearning for a homeland due to persistent anti-Semitism in Europe.
Exactly. The late 19th century saw a convergence of these ideas. Both Christian and Jewish supporters envisioned a return to what they called the Holy Land. But here's where it gets intriguing. In their minds, Palestine was almost a blank slate, an empty land waiting for the return of the Jews, with no consideration for the indigenous population.
Right, and this perception was heavily influenced by collective memory. The French philosopher Marie Calboix described how the biblical Holy Land was imagined during the Middle Ages, creating a romanticized view of Palestine that ignored its actual history and its people.
That's a crucial point. This imaginary landscape shaped not only religious beliefs, but also artistic expressions. Paintings, sculptures, and literature all depicted Palestine as timeless and unchanging, often ignoring the reality of the local populations.
How do you think this historical narrative impacts our understanding of the region today?
It's significant. Christians believed that the return of Jews to Palestine would trigger apocalyptic events, including the resurrection of the dead. This eschatological vision fueled their desire to see a Jewish state established, but it also raises questions about their motivations.
Absolutely. While some support was genuine, it often came with underlying anti-Semitic tones. Many Christian Zionists envisioned a temporary Jewish state as a means to convert Jews to Christianity, effectively pushing them out of the Western world. Isn't that a contradictory stance?
It really is. The depiction of Palestine as terra nullius, a land without owners, mirrors other settler colonial projects, especially in America. The American settlers viewed their new land through a biblical lens, just like early Zionists. It's fascinating to see how these narratives intersect.
Exactly. And as Don Peretz pointed out, the shock experienced by American evangelicals visiting Jerusalem for the first time highlights the disconnect between their imagined city on the hill and the reality they encountered. How do you think this disconnect affects contemporary views on Israel?
Good question. The first public lobbying for Zionism took place on Queen Victoria Street in London in 1866. This marked a significant moment in history where the ideas transitioned from private writings to public advocacy.
And that's where the story gets even more compelling. The early Christian lobbying for Zionism laid the groundwork for modern support for Israel, but it's essential to recognize the complexities and contradictions in these motivations.
So, as we reflect on the origins of Zionism, we see a tapestry woven from religious beliefs, collective memory, and political aspirations. It's a reminder of how history shapes our present and future.
Absolutely. And it invites us to consider the narratives we hold and how they influence our understanding of current events. Thanks for joining us today on this journey through history.
Be sure to subscribe and join us next time as we continue to unravel the stories that shape our world.